From Timcast.com, online legal fund in support of Daniel Penny reaches $2 million. The law firm managing the fundraiser said any funds left over will be donated to a mental health advocacy program in New York City. Personally, I think it should go to Daniel Penny so he can buy himself a nice car. But the story is by Hannah Claire Brimolo, who's sitting right here. So what happened?
Oh, hey. So I actually feel like we should throw you into this. But as we all know, Daniel Penny surrendered to New York law enforcement on Friday. He was released on a $100,000 bond. And his law firm set up this Give, Send, Go, which has surpassed $2 million. I think on Saturday or Sunday night, it was $1 million. It just keeps ramping up. Since I wrote this story, it was at like $2,080,000 when I wrote this, and it's 2.3 now. So he has generated a lot of support from people. Some notable figures, including Vivek Ramaswamy. He gave $10,000. Kid Rock, who said that he does not like Alvin Bragg, he gave $5,000. And our very own Tim Pool gave $20,000. So.
Yeah. I felt bad. I
also messaged him and asked for a comment, and he said, nah. So I guess he
Did I say nah?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize.
We have a really professional relationship.
I woke up this morning and I was reading more news about Daniel Penny, and I was looking at these pictures. And I was saying all last week, like, this guy should not go to jail. This is a good person who was doing the right thing. And I had, like, Nuance Bro tweeted at me. He was like, bro, you went to New York and DC and Austin recently, and you're telling people not to go to cities. And I was like, yes, I've talked all about this. And I started thinking about it. And I started, someone made the argument that they can't leave the city because they were divorced. And if they leave, it means abandoning their kids to what's going on. And if they stay, they can be there for their kids. And I was like, that's a really good point, actually. Mm-hmm. Not everybody can just leave. And it's not because of difficulty. It's because of legal restrictions. And so I thought about that. I'm like, if somebody gets a divorce, their kids are stuck in the city, leaving would be the worst possible thing they could do. And that means staying in the fire is basically someone huddling over their children to protect them from the flames. I can respect that. So I need to rethink this. And then I thought about a few other things. For one, I do feel bad being the only person not stepping up to help a guy who did the right thing. And that was like the most obvious thing. So then I'm like, I should probably just donate to this guy. Like, it's not about anything outside of anything else. Let's just keep it to the one individual dude who did the right thing and probably needs our help.
Yeah.
Simply put. But then I thought, when I was looking at it, and I was like, you know, I saw Vivek gave 10 grand. I saw some anonymous donors gave a bunch of money. And I was like, if I had just donated last week, I probably could have justified, oh, we'll throw a guy a couple grand. But now, considering I spent the past week being like, nah, I'm not a guy, well, you know, humbug. I'm not, I better make it something big. I was thinking about, you know, what I could give. So I said $20,000. And I kind of thought that there are many more people who could do more than that. And I often complain about how rich people aren't doing enough to win the culture war.
Name names, Tim.
About who should be giving more money?
Yeah, why not?
Phil's got some ideas about who could be giving more money.
Paging Mr. Boring. Mr. Jeremy Boring. Tim Pool has raised the challenge. And
no, you know, I didn't say anything about the Daily
Boring. We have so many of your candy bars here, and we've been promoting. Mr. Boring, please help this young man. You are a wealthy individual.
Like that's
all
Phil.
That is Phil Labonte.
But I did say this morning, I challenge anybody who can to give more than I did, because I know they can. And there's a few other things to consider. It's not, first and foremost, I'm like, this guy shouldn't go to prison. It's unfortunate Jordan Neely lost his life. I'm sad about this. I know the guy had criminal convictions. I know he'd been arrested and he's been accused of really bad things. But I also, you know, I don't want people to lose their lives, especially if they're homeless, hungry, and they're unwell. The left has taken the stance that Jordan Neely was unwell, therefore he didn't deserve to die. And I'm kind of like, I don't care if you're well or unwell. If you attack people, threaten people, and he did. Witnesses said he was issuing death threats.
Yeah.
And you don't deserve to die, but someone's got to stop you from hurting people. So ultimately what I'll say is this. It's not just about Daniel Penny, but first and foremost it is. But after that, it's about winning in the cities. I thought about, if we don't win the right to self-defense in the cities, it comes to our doorstep next. So let's keep it over there. The next thing I thought was, if we do win, much like Anheuser-Busch, it negates the effort from the left in their pressure campaign. With the left going out rioting and smashing things up and fighting with cops, let's send a message that their protests mean nothing, and this man will not face a minute behind bars because we will win.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, just to pop in here, I think the fundraiser is pretty indicative of how the rest of the country feels. His fundraiser is over $2 million, and I think Jordan Neely's, I don't know, whatever contribution setup that he did, but I think it only raised about $100,000, $200,000. So very glad that Daniel Penny's has gone over 2 million. It's showing where the pulse of the country is right now.
Yeah, I mean, one of the comments that I saw on it when I wrote the story this morning was someone saying, "I live in New York. I'm a Democrat. I'm not a Christian, but I had some very terrifying interactions with Jordan Neely, and Daniel Penny does not deserve this. I mean, I think it's interesting that specifically Jordan Neely, while it's sad that he is deceased, and obviously we don't want anyone to experience violence like this, he has an established criminal history. The fact that people were aware of who this was, that he has, he punched some 60-year-old grandmother, she broke her skull because of it. This isn't just like a random attack from, some Marine veteran who's just decided to be
and this strikes a
aggressive.
chord with a lot of people. I mean, this is a scenario in which anybody could be in that scenario. It happens every single day that there's a psychopath on the train.
Yeah.
And you often wonder, what am I going to do if I have a loved one or if I have a girlfriend next to me? Am I going to be prosecuted like Daniel Penny? I mean, but that's exactly what they want. This is an attack on self-defense. And so they want you to be able to submit to these random psychopaths that should be in asylums.
Jordan Neely's GoFundMe has $134,273 raised. So I think this fundraiser is fine. They want to raise money for his funeral costs. I think it's sad the dude died. I don't want anybody to die. This wasn't the case of some political extremist who was seeking to harm people, like going to a school and murdering children or anything like that. It was a guy who was just generally unwell and was rejected, was dejected, rejected, and it's part of social decay. I blame the Democrats for a lot of what's happening. These NIMBY policies that have been going on for a long time that I've personally experienced when I work for nonprofits. But that's not for the individual, him, nor for Daniel Penny. This dude shouldn't have died. But I gotta stop and just say, whatever the reason, be you well or unwell, when you go into a confined space and start threatening people, saying you'll take their lives, if 3 people are threatened by you to the point where they think they must subdue you, I mean, that's it. Like you aggressed, you started this. That being said, if people want to raise money for this man's family and everything, I think that's mighty fine. I think it's sad that, there's going to be costs associated with his loss of life. And I wish this kind of stuff didn't happen. How do we solve that problem? It's not solved by locking up Daniel Penny, who was a victim in the matter, trying to save other people.
It's definitely not. And the broader political motivations really are just very gross, because most people, if they're honest with themselves, when they really think about it, if they were in that situation, if they were in that train car, they would feel much better about him being restrained than him running around and intimidating everyone on the train. And to say any differently is so dishonest. And I've seen some people on the left from some of the leftist shows listening to the ridiculous things that they say about this situation it's really stomach turning. It is. It's
well, we had Lance from the Surfs on this show, and he kept playing this manipulative game. Was it proportional? Does Jordan Neely's erratic behavior warrant being choked to death? And it's like, but Daniel Penny wasn't trying to choke him to death. Daniel Penny actually tried to save his life. On video, you can see Penny and others try to save Jordan Neely after subduing him.
One of the things that I heard that really set me off and offended my sensibilities the most, someone was saying that it was bourgeois to think that they should be able to take the train without having to experience that kind of intimidation. It was characterized as discomfort because it was an extremely leftist leaning person, but not only is it gross to think, oh, it's bourgeois to think that you should be secure in your person. Right. Most fundamental property you have is your own body. And it's bourgeois to think that you should be secure in your person, first of all. And second of all, this is the type of transportation that people on the left are constantly saying that we need more of. They don't want. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, I think we've probably all been on the subway in New York or in some major city. And yes, there are occasionally people who are homeless, who are not well, who are talking themselves, whatever. But the fact that multiple people called 911 is unusual. Like, if the New Yorkers are so calm and chill about this whole thing, this must have really rattled them. If they see this every day and you're not supposed to be offended by it, the fact that there were multiple calls to 911 before there was a confrontation is indicative of a situation that is abnormal, even for people who are like, hey, I'm not even going to look at you. We're going to pretend you're not here. I'm just going to get on the train and go.
And this is going to, Tim had mentioned something else that this is going to tie into, but it's this idea on the left, or actually this perspective on the left that is so detached from reality And you see it in multiple arenas. Right now, we're talking about, defense of your own life and defense of your own, yourself. To think that you don't have that right, to think that the state should step in and put you in jail because you had the audacity to try to defend yourself and other people it's a terrible, terrible attack on individual rights. And I think that the more we can do to shut it down, the better.
Where were the social workers?
Yeah.
I want to know.
I mean,
why weren't they there sooner?
To your point, why aren't people interceding? If you're supposed to be used to this every day, isn't that sad that we would live in a community where you're watching someone suffer a mental illness? Because that's what we've all agreed on. Jordan Neely was extremely troubled, mentally ill. And your reality is that you think that we should just ignore it, that we should just pretend it's normal?
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.